What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bob the Builder. And this is kind of the sped up Cantina diorama that we did, and it's an overview. We won't be really going through step by step, just more so kind of general things that happened during the production of it. All of this footage was from the breakdown, kind of piece by piece tutorials that we did on Patreon. That salmon hang, that is the name of the table. I get questions all the time about what is the name of the IKEA table. That's it. So it's in there and you have it. I always forget it and I always call it Shang Tsung. So we started off with our cuts and the actual build. This one was, I think, different because a lot of it was like all of the steps that we had, all of the skills we had kind of learned, we kind of used for this one. And I feel like whenever that happens, it always makes for better ones. It's rare that you get to utilize sort of this wide array of skills. It's usually like a one-trick pony kind of a thing. I do feel like we're working on an X-Mansion one now, and I do feel like that one is kind of in the same place as this one, but not always do you have the ability to kind of use all the tools in your toolbox. So and whenever you do, it always makes for something a little bit more dynamic. And I don't remember having any issues with the build on this, but like there were challenging things that we'll show here soon, like when we built the benches and stuff. But a lot of this is just cutting out different types of foam, insulation foam, whether it was 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch or 2 inch, and finding the right kind of tool for the right job. And I do find it helpful when you're there to like just run numbers off to me, and like it just makes my life easier. A lot of times, like I feel like with these last couple ones, you think we haven't done that as much, and now I've had to come back out and measure and come back out. Yeah. But like I said, a lot of the cutting and stuff and kind of the technical element is on the Patreon. But I just use a blade and a T-square and some foam. And that's how you kind of start. A lot of this we like planned out ahead of time, but sometimes when I'm working on something, like I'll just start throwing pieces in and seeing how it goes. And
I don't feel like you normally do that. I feel like we did it once or twice, but that is definitely not normal.
No.
Normally we plan it.
Correct. But I do feel like
it sort of stresses me out when we don't.
But if I look at like the Transformer ones where it was just kind of throwing pieces in, those are the ones that look the best. It's the arc one and the what was the second one that we did?
Dam? No.
There was another one that I did.
Oh, the road one.
Yeah, and that was just putting pieces in until it felt right and then making something out of it. So I do think there's a charm to that, but when it's something like this that's so exact, like it has to be on that square and you have to show off so many figures, like this required planning. And I always try to break this down and let you guys see kind of the process. So this was when we had sort of the rough build and knew everything was going to work and the figures were going to lay out nicely. That's important because you want to get the bang for your buck with the figures and the display. And this was kind of just making sure that everything was going to fit. Yeah. And make sense and look good, because there is kind of a...
Oh, this was a nightmare.
Yeah, this was cutting the archways, because they're like little tunnels in the movie inside the Cantina bar, but we didn't do that. We just kind of alluded to it because it would have just wasted space. And then this was, these were the benches. This was probably the newest, most involved thing that we did.
Slicing up tongue depressors for wood planks. Yeah.
This was a lot, and this we also
make a lot of them too. How many did we make? 8 or 10?
I think it was 8, and I used putty, like milliput, to kind of sculpt the railings of them all, like which is something I'd never done before. So this was we even got to do some new stuff and then add those to the toolbox, which is nice as well. And this was making these like weird bars that sit behind it. And then what are you working on here? You're making the bar tables.
Oh yeah, the little tables.
Yeah.
And Leia's helping.
Correct. What was that like?
It wasn't too bad actually. I think I used like old IKEA feet. Yeah. And then I had like a vitamin water cap in there. I had something else in between, and then just sort of circled them around with the wood.
And I used this wood filler for the first time, which I had never used. My dad gave me a bunch for another project. And then this. Oh. Now this you have to talk about.
I don't know. It was a Sunday afternoon, several hours, and lots of quirky little pieces and just gluing them together.
Yeah, this was the biggest nightmare of this thing. It was
fun, though. It was also the funnest part, I feel like.
Was it? Because I felt like you were getting frustrated, especially when you had to take it apart and put it back together.
Well, yeah, so I put it... Well, no. I didn't glue it when I built it. Do you know what I mean? So all the pieces were loose, and then when I had to take it apart to glue it, and I couldn't remember exactly which direction which thing went, it sort of was like trying to rebuild the puzzle without...
And it's important, like, it's the centerpiece. Like, it's the thing, like, it's the reason why they're all there. So, like, it had to look good. And it's nice also with 3 3/4, you can get away with stuff that you can't normally get away with. Like, you know, all this stuff that had to be glued, like, there's tons of, like, glue chunks and everything else. Not just on this, but on everything. On the, like, even the railing on the benches and such. But because it's such a small scale, nobody really zeroes in on it. Like, the bigger the scale gets, the more kind of exact it has to be. This was the floor and base of it. The bar in the movie has a very distinct look, and it has like this grid pattern on it. So I actually cut a piece of screen that we had left over and glued it down to like just add that texture, and then airbrushed. I'm getting a little bit better at the airbrush piece by piece, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just like anything else. The more you play with it, the better you're going to get. And that was just adding some stains. People, you know, like we host parties here, so we know that people have a tendency to spill their drinks. And yeah, and this was more of that wood. I think I got a little carried away with the wood filler, but it does look. It stands out. I feel like it gives like the walls like that sandy texture. And like actually, there's a mistake on ours with the I painted black on the pieces that are supposed to be sort of the border of the diorama, and there's a few mistakes down there. Like I was just pieces put in the wrong place.
No one needs to know.
Yeah, but I definitely notice it whenever I sit down there. And yeah, this is like getting towards the end. You had to spray paint this.
Yep. And I just yep.
What did you do after you... do you remember... Did you wash that stuff after you spray painted it?
Those are the tables.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, I did wash it.
You started painting a lot of these, and then I think I ended up throwing on second coats. Well, because it was like... This one took forever, and we wanted to have it done by Skullface. And it was kind of... I mean, we still got it done in plenty of time, but it still felt like it was down to the wire to kind of get it in place. And that, like those are all the benches. If you see, like those are how many we had to make, and we painted like the wood brown and the seats beige and the trim beige as well. So it was just involved. There was a lot of moving pieces to this one, and a lot of planning and making sure that the measurements were just right and that every little piece had enough kind of character to fill in the gaps. And actually, this is the droid detector, and it's another little mistake that's in there. I glued it upside down in the diorama because I'm an idiot. Nobody has ever noticed or said anything about it, but I see it's one of those things. One of the things I see. Yeah.
Keep it to yourself.
And I probably should have airbrushed the blue too, but I think I was getting antsy. I get impatient.
Yes.
Yeah, towards the end. The doors. And there's a lot of things about this diorama that tell a story. Like there's the droids that are hidden in the little place where the stormtroopers are looking for them. There's the EU Wookiee that kind of owned the cantina. Like he's got his own little room. And at this point, this is the finished product. And it's like it came out really well. There's one thing I didn't show in the Patreon stuff, and that is the red and blue lines that are on the wall, and I did those with just a Prismacolor marker. And those little posters are like little band promotional posters on the walls that are painted on.
That was a nice touch that you added.
A lot of those little things, like those little doodads and extra little tidbits, it like brings it to life, I feel like. And we tried to make it where the characters that are like sitting at the bar are the characters at the bar, and the characters that are, you know, at the booth or at the booth, but some of them just don't.
He says we as in I had any assistance in that. Well, I clearly did not.
some of them just don't lend themselves to it because like they were made at different points during like the Hasbro run. Yeah, there's the Wookiee there, the armory. They were made at different points during the Hasbro run, so like some of them like the knees don't bend, so like they can't be sitting at the bench and so on and so forth. But once again, it's one of those things that nobody like comes over and is like, dude, wasn't he at the booth and not at the bar? Like everybody just kind of goes with it. Like you fill it in. Nobody gets that kind of anal about the attention to detail regarding it. Broshek hanging out. But yeah, it's one of the best ones that we have, I think. Like overall, it's one of the most impressive.
It was fun.
Yeah.